rare diseases. What is your definition of a rare disease?
Well, the dictionary definition is a disease that affects less than 200,000 people.
Okay.
I have short bowel syndrome, and I was thinking on the way in here, how many people do I know that actually, and I came up with a half a dozen that I have met personally.
To be honest with you, up until preparing the show, I've heard of that, but I really didn't realize what an impact it has on someone's life. Would you explain to our listeners exactly what that is?
Well, short bowel syndrome can be can happen to people from a number of ways. I happen to have something called Crohn's disease, and because it had gotten very serious, and I actually was bleeding to death at the time, they had to operate and remove the diseased bowel, and in doing that, they removed most of my small intestine.
What is Crohn's disease?
It's an inflammation of the small bowel, basically. It can go up into your esophagus, all the way to your mouth, actually. It basically is just a big inflammation that sometimes it quiets down, and then we have these flares, they call them, and we get very sick and we can't digest our food. We can't absorb the food.
Now, we often hear Crohn's associated with colitis. We have Crohn's colitis. What exactly is colitis in relation to what we're talking about?
They're very similar. The way I understand it, colitis happens in your colon, your large bowel, and they treat them very much the same. The short bowel syndrome is basically when they've removed enough of your bowel that you can't absorb enough food to maintain your body.
Now, you served our nation during the Vietnam War.
True.
In the Navy. And also in doing the research for today's program, I understand that's sort of the point where you began to develop the medical problems. Was that caused by heredity or environmental matters, environmental exposure in the Navy?
You know, I have no idea. I've asked a lot of physicians and they don't know either. It seems to be an autoimmune disease. Arthritis is an autoimmune disease. There's several autoimmune diseases, and they treat them. Now there's several new drugs that they can use to treat these diseases. There's one called Remicade, Humira, budesonide, and there's a new one for short bowel syndrome called Gattex, which I was a subject. I was in a clinical trial several years ago to see how that worked, and it was a double-blind study, and we didn't know whether we actually had the drug or salt water. And I knew in about 3 days that I had the drug because I felt so much better.
Now, in preparing for today's program, I understand that you lead a regular life as an environmentalist, and you're
Yes.
out there working a 40-hour week. But Tom Sanford also has a very challenging lifestyle. Would you share that with our viewers?
Well, during the day, you probably wouldn't know, because the therapy that I'm on really works for me.
Right.
I just go about my regular business, but when I get home at night, I have to do intravenous feedings every night. I have a small tube that goes from outside my skin into a large vein that is just about here, just above my heart. It's a large caliber vein, and I use what they call parenteral nutrition, which is specially prepared chemicals, if you will, protein and carbohydrates, dextrose, to maintain enough calories so that I can do what I want to do. I also have to take something called lipids, which are basically fats. It looks like mayonnaise, and I pump that in twice a week. For most of my life, I've run in 2 liters of this parenteral nutrition every night.
So basically, you're on a liquid diet?
Oh, yes, it's a liquid diet. It's hard to get a piece of candy or anything through that very small tube.
So you generally...
But I eat normally as well.
Oh, you do?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. How are the two lifestyles compatible?
Well, there are some people out there that can't eat anything. And they exist basically on this, what we call TPN. And
we're getting a call about you.
Okay. Which reminds me, I should probably shut mine off too. TPN is a total meal, if you will, and it takes about 12 or 13 hours to finish it. So I start out around 8 in the evening and go till 8 in the morning with this thing. You can't dump it in very fast.
So it's about 13 hours.
Yeah, by the time you begin and there's a certain procedure, hooking up and unhooking.
And this is called
sterile.
Parenteral support?
Yeah, it is. I often don't pronounce the last part of it. I say parental, but
well, you help me with it anyway. So it's so are you able to sleep? This sort of happens during, you're being fed while you're sleeping during the night?
Yes, and it's one of the things that I don't like is about when you run in 2 liters of fluid, it's like beer. You cannot, you have to get up in the middle of the night.
Go to the bathroom.
To get rid of either the TPN or the beer.
Sure.
And so I have, since I began this, I have never had a full night's sleep. I've always had to get up around 3 a.m.
Well, you look well rested right now.
Actually, I sleep very well. I've adapted. It's, new parents learn about this. They get up all night long. But
now, one of the risks, I guess, of this is infection by being fed intravenously every night.
Yeah, I get these tremendous infections. There's several people. One of the creators of the Muppets got a deep infection, septicemia they call it, and he died from it. And he didn't even have one of these lines. And about every 2 years or so, I wake up, I walk around, and all of a sudden my hands start to shake and I'm shivering. They call it rigor, and my temperature shoots up to about 104, and that's time to go into the hospital, and they start pumping me full of antibiotics.
Now, would that be because of a bad meal or some other situation that would cause that?
Usually there's somehow some bacteria has gotten into that line.
Okay.
And so the infection is way down deep in my body, and that's what makes it so dangerous. There's not much I can do about it. I just have to get into the hospital as quickly as possible, and so far I've had maybe 15 of these and have been able to get rid of it.
Now, do you go to a local hospital? Do they prepare your meals? How do you get your daily meals?
Okay, actually, because I'm a veteran, I take advantage of the VA in Albany.
Peter Potter's place. Okay.
Yes. And but my solutions, I call them, are prepared by a home care facility that has a pharmacy and everything, and they deliver them to my house. I have a small refrigerator, college dorm size refrigerator, and every week I get new bags of solution, which
they only do it about a week in advance.
Every week. There actually is they're good for about 10 days, but I I get new ones every week. They make a weekly delivery.
Now, you're here because of the 30th anniversary of the Orphan Disease Act. And up until I was preparing for the show, I never heard of the Orphan Disease Act. And I'm sure that's the case with our viewers. Would you share with us today?
Well, the Orphan Disease Act of 1982, actually.
Okay.
No, I'm sorry, it is 83. Is a way that the government has developed to encourage drug companies to develop drugs to treat these people or the diseases that there's not much demand for the drugs. It involves tax advantages and patent advantages. And I have seen this particular one that teduglutide or Gattex, is the newest one that I'm aware of. And although I was participating in the studies, I wasn't aware of the fact that there were all these advantages to having it. In addition, they can charge ungodly amounts for the drugs themselves.
Well, basically what you're saying is, financially, it is not worthwhile for a company to invest in a product that has a limited audience.
Exactly.
But you folks out there with these rare diseases need help. So the government 30 years ago passed legislation which makes it worthwhile financially for a company to do research to help people with your disease and other rare diseases to make it happen.
It's true. And not only, some of these drugs also have other ways of being used. Remicade and Humira are used for arthritis. Okay. But they were developed, I think they were developed on this orphan drug. It's an immune suppressant. Where if you have arthritis, the only way the way they treat it now is just suppress your immune system to the point where it doesn't, your body is no longer attacking itself.
Now, this is the 30th anniversary of the Orphan Disease Act. Do you, first of all, is it in a precarious situation? And they're calling to talk to you. Is the legislation in a precarious situation, or?
I believe not. I believe it is working well, and we're just more or less just celebrating the fact that the government has done this, and it has worked so well that we can expect more drugs to be developed. When I started this back in 1982, there were only 2 drugs that they treated me with, and now we have at least half a dozen that we can use. And I suspect it's all due to this Orphan Drug Act. We used to use a drug called prednisone, which is still on the market and still being used, and azolfidine, which is a sulfa drug. That was it. And now there are several drugs that can be used, and not only for what we need, but it's used for, I've seen some of them advertised on television for arthritis and other autoimmune diseases.
Now, rare diseases are more common than we think, right?
That's true.
How many people in the country or in the world suffer from rare diseases right now?
Well, they claim that the people that have short bowel syndrome, there's only 15,000 in the United States. That's not very many, but if you count all the rare diseases around, and it numbers around 7,000, you're getting right up there. There are diseases, genetic diseases particularly, where there's only 2 or 3 people that have it, and then there's short bowel syndrome, which can be caused by a number of things. It could be caused by gunshots. People shot in the abdomen. The surgeons may have to remove some of that small intestine to save your life, which was my case. I wasn't gunshot, but they had to take out this small bowel. Automobile accidents